One day, while exploring the ruins southeast of the Arlington Library, we see a big pillar of steam rising from the water. Upon closer inspection, we realize that the steam is coming from a steamboat moored to a nearby dock. This is the Riverboat Landing. As we get closer, we see a number of Mirelurk corpses. Looks like whomever captains this boat is making sure to keep the nearby waters clean. Peering through our scope, we see that the name of this riverboat is the Duchess Gambit. As we walk across the dock, we are approached by a woman in rags named Catherine.
Are you going to Point Lookout? I need your help. My daughter stowed away on the Duchess Gambit a few weeks ago, and I've been worried sick ever since. I haven't heard anything from her, but if you're going there, could you look for her? Please, I'll do anything to help.
How about I save us both the effort and say she's probably dead?
Please, don't say that.
I don't know, I'm kinda busy. Go find her on your own.
Please, I'm not asking for much.
Well, I can't promise anything, but I'll look for her.
Oh, bless you. Her name is Nadine, and she left a couple of weeks ago. Said she wanted to see the world. Silly little thing that she is. That Tobar said he dropped her off at Point Lookout, but who knows what's happened to her since then. I don't know if you can convince my little Nadine to come back, but just give her this note from me, would you?
She didn't bother to seal the note. We can go ahead and read it. My darling Nade, I know life wasn't always the best at home, and we've had a few rough winters. I don't blame you for running off to find something better. At your age, you think you're wasting away at home while the world's just waiting for you to come and get it. When I was about your age, I ran off from my mom too. And even though there were some terrible things along the way, it ended with me having you. So I can't complain. I just wish you could have seen your grandmother. I wish I had a chance to see her again myself. If you're reading this, I just want you to know you're always welcome back home. Please, learn from my mistake and don't stay away forever. Missing you. Hugs and kisses. Mom. Come on, you're tugging at my heartstrings here. Hey, Catherine, do you know anything about Point Lookout?
Only that it's where Tobar gets those punga fruits he sells off. Must be making a good profit off of them, too. I hear rumors the place is full of swamps and killer plants, but I don't know about all that.
Killer plants and swamps? So much for finding your daughter alive. But what can you tell me about your daughter?
She's about your age, and when she left, her hair was dyed bright orange. You shouldn't have any problem recognizing her. She told me she wanted to go find her fortune, but I thought it was too dangerous. I should have known better than to say that. Moment I told her she couldn't go, it was just a matter of time before she ran off.
All right, I'll be going.
Please, find my daughter.
We need to look for a girl named Nadine who has bright orange hair. Sitting on the dock outside, we find a big steamer trunk, a couple of suitcases, and some boxes. Nothing interesting inside. And then boarding the vessel, we see two rooms. To the left, we can open a door. This appears to be a bedroom of sorts. We find a cot with a footlocker and a tub. Above the tub are some brand new posters I've never seen. Ruzka, the Wonder Bear. Looks like a poster from a circus. Heading out, we can climb up a stairway to the top platform. Looks like a typical observation deck on a river tour boat. And we see the captain's steering wheel towards the prow of the ship. When done exploring, we can head back downstairs to talk to the captain of the Duchess Gambit, named Tobar.
Welcome, my friend. I am Tobar the ferryman, and this fine vessel is the Duchess Gambit. We're just back from Point Lookout, but it won't be long before we set off again. Interested?
Dad taught me never to accept rides from strangers.
But he's not here now, is he? And besides, I'm no stranger. I'm Tobar the ferryman at your service.
Well, I might be interested. What's so special about Point Lookout?
You look like a woman who's been around the wastes, so I'll cut right to it. In Point Lookout, you'll find fresh-grown food, mysterious locales, and treasures as of yet unlooted. But keep your wits about you, because there's more than a few exotic critters and inhospitable locals. So stay here if you're too dainty to rough it.
Nice boat. You must have seen a lot of places with it.
You should have seen her back in her heyday. Why, we traveled up and down the coast from the Commonwealth to the Broken Banks. Good times, but these days she's not fit to take out to the coast. Too many spouts ready to drown her and too many critters looking for lunch. But the Point Lookout run is good enough for now. We've got a sweet deal ferrying cargo and the occasional traveler.
Can you tell me more about Point Lookout?
Down south, this side of the bay, there's a soggy strand of beach called Point Lookout. Oh, it's got it all. Ruins of ancient pleasure towns, mysterious swamps bristling with treasure, and all practically untouched by outsiders. But if you're curious, I could offer you a ride over to that faraway land. For a nominal fee, of course.
A girl named Nadine caught a ride on your ship. Do you have any idea where she is?
Ah, Nadine. Sprightly little tomboy with more curiosity than common sense, that one. Caused so much trouble on the trip that I probably would have thrown her overboard if she hadn't reminded me of myself at her age. I haven't seen her since we hit land at Point Lookout. But knowing her, I'll bet she's gotten herself in plenty of trouble.
All right, Tobar, how much for a ticket?
Looking for fame and fortune? Hoping to cultivate the delicious punga fruit? Or just looking to run away from your life on these dreary shores?
Costs 350 caps for a riverboat ticket. But since we're about to undertake a 30-day voyage, I suppose that's a fair price. After purchasing our ticket, we can say, do I need to bring anything else?
Once you've got a ticket, just head into the cabin and settle in on the cot. We'll be there in no time.
How will I get back afterwards?
All you have to do is come back to me and buy another ticket. Just be careful not to get stranded short on caps, huh?
And with that, Tobar walks over and opens the door to the cabin that we already explored. Now, Tobar was leaning against the storm door to the engine room, but it requires a key to get in, which we don't have. Strange that he would keep this locked. When we're ready, we can head into the cabin and activate the cot. The Duchess Gambit is ready to begin its trip to Point Lookout. We can now begin our 30-day voyage to Point Lookout. At last, we arrive at Point Lookout. Before we disembark, Tobar takes us aside to provide us with some friendly advice.
Welcome to Point Lookout, my friend. The trip was fine. The weather's nice and damp, and everything out there looks pleasant as ever. Looks like nothing's changed since my last visit, except all that smoke I saw on the way in.
Should I be worried? What's over there?
Oh, nothing much, just old Calvert Mansion. Just a huge abandoned estate teeming with who knows what opportunities for profitable scavenging. You know, nothing much.
So, it's just smoke. Things burn down all the time, especially around me.
Oh, it's smoke, all right. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And where there's fire, there's profit to be made selling an extinguisher. That smoke's coming from old Calvert Mansion. I always heard it was haunted, but more importantly, I always heard it was full of pre-war treasure. I know I said Point Lookout was perfect for treasure hunters, but it's a rare day when you get a beacon like that.
Do you have any places you recommend I visit here in Point Lookout?
Depends what you're looking for. If you need supplies, head to the shop over at the end of these docks. Convenient, and I get caps for referring you. If you need a place to stay, there's an old motel further into town. The beds there are still pretty soft. even if it's because they're full of lice. And if you're looking for some hunting, there's a fella named Plick who runs a club out in the northeast. Strictly for high rollers, though.
Anything else to say about Point Lookout before I leave?
You're staring at it, friend. Drink it in. See the glorious boardwalk, fabled pleasure town of the sunny past, and beyond it lies the haunted swamplands. Who knows what's hidden in them?
With that, Tobar walks away, and we can leave the ship to explore the boardwalk called Pilgrims Landing. Pilgrims Landing must have been a lively boardwalk before the war. We find the remains of plenty of shops. Stretcho, Saltwater Taffy Company, Colin Tony's Pizzeria. Colin Tony's? Oh, who's gonna eat pizza at a place named after a colon? Fizzy's Fountain Drinks, and Diggity's Hot Dogs. To begin our exploration, we can turn north down the first passageway we find. All of the pre-war shops are closed and boarded up. We can continue north or turn west. Turning west for now, we find a small amount of garbage left over from the carnival, empty popcorn and soda containers, crumbled newspaper on the ground. In one of the garbage cans, we find some Workman's Coveralls, a new item of clothing that came with Point Lookout. However, it looks identical to the Brahmin skin outfit. It has a DT of 2, but a bonus of 10 to repair, which is the highest repair boost on any piece of clothing in the entire game. We find these all over Point Lookout. You can walk away with dozens and dozens of Workman's Coveralls. They're in practically every container, so they're not exactly rare. Continuing through, we find some sort of plaza with park benches and video telephone booths laid out. In the southwest corner, we see a trash compactor, but upon activating, we learn that the compactor has no power. Perhaps we'll find a use for this later. Heading up the ramp, we see a big Ferris wheel at the very top. One of the cars is on the ground level, but we can't step inside. On one of the southern poles, we find an electrical switch, but upon activating it, we learn that this object is activated elsewhere. Well, let's keep this area in mind. We may come back here later. But Tobar mentioned a nearby merchant. Let's see if we can find her. Retracing our steps and then turning north, we can turn east where we find the House of Wares. This was some sort of games plaza. We find skee ball and a rifle range. But today, it is Pineda's House of Wares. We find Pineda leaning against one of the ducky target ranges.
Well, hello there, young traveler. The fates had told me that I would receive a visitor today. But I'm being rude. I am Madame Pineda, and this is Madame Pineda's House of Wares. For all things a traveler needs, I am here to provide. Bullets, stim packs, armor, weapons, junk. If you need it, Madame Pineda has already anticipated your need and procured it months ago.
Show me what you got for sale.
All of Madame Pineda's wares are top quality.
We will become fast friends with Pineda. She's one of the few merchants here on Point Lookout. She has a decent selection of weapons. She even has a few of the new weapons that come with Point Lookout, including the lever-action rifle. However, we will find these dropped like candy all over the place, so no sense buying them now. She has every major chem, a fine selection of scrap, and a decent selection of ammunition, even selling missiles. We can then ask her if she can repair things for us.
Of course. I learned many tricks from my father.
But sadly, her repair skill is only 5.
Fair travels, young one.
She is guarded by a nearby Protectron, so it looks like there will be no funny business.
Move along, please.
Her House of Wares is a sprawling little shop, and that's one thing I've noticed about Pilgrims Landing. It is sprawling, almost unnecessarily so. Turning north, we can head up some steps where we find the old pre-war bumper cars. These are not functional, however, and we don't find any switch. There's also not a door out, so to leave the boardwalk, we have to hop over a wall. Here I stumbled upon our first indication that Point Lookout may not be such a welcoming place. In a little cubbyhole, we find the corpse of a smuggler. Here we see a mattress covered in blood and gore next to a corn dog sign, and 2 ammunition boxes with a first aid kit. I suppose we could use this as a makeshift camp until we find a proper place to rest. Once we reach the road, we get attacked by a vicious dog. He proves not to be too much of a threat, but this is a reminder that now I need to be on my toes. Now, Tobar gave us quite a list of places that we could explore, but we came here looking for a redheaded girl named Nadine. He hasn't seen much of her, but the last thing to change since he was last here was the smoke rising from Calvert Mansion. Perhaps Nadine found her way to the mansion and got herself into trouble. We'll start our search for the girl by heading east towards Calvert Mansion. We can reach the mansion one of two ways. If we follow the road, we pass by many signs saying Calvert Mansion this way. Following the road will be safer, and along the way, we stumble upon some of the strange new oddities unique to Point Lookout, including a bunch of lynched dolls hanging from trees. We'll find these all over the swamp, but what could they mean? Perhaps we'll find an answer later. Eventually, the road heads up a hill towards another sign, Calvert Mansion this way, until at last we find the mansion looming before us. The other way to get there is to travel east directly from the boardwalk, cutting across this grassland between the boardwalk and Calvert Mansion. If we choose this path, we stumble upon a campsite where we get to meet some of the locals, and it looks like these fellows are having a bit of a hoedown. Well, this brightens up my day. Look at these guys. Probably listening to some great harmonica music. They seem like a friendly bunch. This skinny guy looks a little malnourished. Maybe I could share some of my food with him. And look at this big old guy. He's just a big old teddy bear with some sort of skin infection. He has a twin brother over here. This one must have had a really messy hot dog. Looks like his name is Bill. And then the fourth guy is clapping his hands, having a good old hoedown while holding a kitchen knife. Maybe he was peeling onions. That might explain his swollen eye. Well, I'm sure they would love some company. So putting our weapon away, we can head on over to introduce ourselves. Hey there, fellas. What you doing? Oh. Okay, so they're not so friendly after all. Their little campsite is right next to one of the new distinguishing features of this landscape, a radioactive pool of bubbling mud. Thankfully, I'm protected by a full suit of T-51 power armor, but these pools are deadly without protection, and every now and then they will erupt with these big bubbles, and if we touch them, they burst, covering us with radioactive slop. The bubbles, however, are pretty resilient. We can even pick them up and move them around until they burst in horrifying radioactive mucus. Oh. Checking out these guys' campsite, we see some old pre-war motorcycles. Looks like they've been using some of the plywood for target practice, and we find quite an assortment of booze laid out on a makeshift table. We can loot some ammo containers and a first aid box. Then we can loot their bodies. I love the way these bodies melt when using energy weapons. Instead of turning into an ash pile, we see an incinerated mutant carcass. All that remains is a boot, and when we activate it, we lift the boot up to loot the corpse. I thought that was great. These guys were carrying some of the unique weapons found here, including the new long-handled axe, and many of them will have a wide range of chems, and then some new items like moonshine, a brand new alcoholic beverage, and yeast, a component for crafting moonshine, which we will get into in an upcoming episode. But after clearing this campsite, we can head up the hill to Calvert Mansion. Regardless of the way we chose to approach the mansion, we see that the place is remarkably well preserved for being 200 years old and surviving a nuclear apocalypse. There is a little bit of trash outside, and we find the remains of a greenhouse on the western side of the mansion. The windows to the greenhouse have all been blown away, but we do find a door and we can head on in to explore. Looks like someone has spent some time here. We see a couch right next to a TV. We find jet laid out and a few containers to loot. Someone has slept here as well. We find some makeshift bedding against the southern corner next to a bowl of noodles and a whole bunch of beer. But that's all we find in the greenhouse for now, so we can then head back to the mansion. As we approach the front door, a voice calls to us from the other side.
You
You're no tribal. Get in here and help me fight these bastards off, goddammit.
I don't see an intercom. Are you talking to me?
Yes, you. I see you out there. Stop dicking around and help me, or else these cocksuckers will be coming after you next. I can't stay barricaded in this safe room forever. Now get in here and lend me a hand. Time to shit or get off the pot, Joker. Get inside and help, or get off my damned lawn.
Well, despite this guy's charming personality, let's head on inside to help him out. We find ourselves in a long entryway, and almost as soon as we enter, gunfire erupts from the nearby room. We see some ceiling-mounted turrets shooting at something, and a ghoul in a suit running around with his 2 dogs shooting at them. The attackers are called Tribals, and they're hostile towards everyone, including ourselves. After clearing the Tribals who charged from this room, we can walk over to the ghoul who sports a rather fine head of hair.
I don't know who you are, but you need to help me if you want to stay alive.
All right, I'll bite. What do you got to show me, Desmond?
They've been at it all night. I think they are just about to breach the inner walls. Follow me. I'm going to go check it out.
Who are they? You're not giving me very much context, Desmond. We can follow him into the next room, and then...
Hey, over here.
Tribals blow a hole in the far wall and rush into the room wielding axes. We can take the opportunity to try out one of the new weapons that comes with this DLC, the double-barrel shotgun. A fine weapon, but I found myself reloading quite a lot. When done, Desmond leads us into the room the Tribals came from.
It looks like they're coming in from somewhere upstairs. Hurry, follow me.
He runs out and then opens the big double doors to the north.
Go through these doors and up the stairs. Find where they are coming in and stop them. I'll be keeping an eye on the cameras down here. Hurry.
Now, how did he know that the Tribals were coming from somewhere upstairs? Going back into that bathroom. Oh, okay. So they had dropped down into this room from a hole in the ceiling. The water is coming from a bathroom up there. But what was the point of this room? This room had no doors in or out. The only way in is through the big hole in the wall that the Tribals made. Seems like a bit of an oversight. Now, Desmond wanted us to go through these big double doors, but before we do, let's take a look at all of the rooms we've passed through so far. We've bypassed quite a lot to loot. We can loot the Tribals where we find some fingers if we have the Lawbringer perk. Okay, this is all I need to know that the Tribals are evil. We can also loot the unique tribal armor they have. Certainly not going to be as good as my T-51, but I'll add it to my collection. There's a first aid kit in this room. Then heading back to that main room, we see a few containers laid about and a whole bunch of bookshelves. In one of the suitcases, we find a Confederate hat. We also find lots of Union hats lying around. Maybe the Calverts were involved in Civil War reenactment. There are lots of wardrobes all over the mansion, and almost all of them are filled with all sorts of clothing. Pre-war business wear, bonnets, hats, and more of those Confederate and Union hats. But the most rewarding room is that back room where we first met Desmond. Here we find an arsenal laid out on a table to the south, 3 ammo boxes underneath, and a table laid out with an assortment of weapons. None of these are set to own, so we can take as many as we like. Assault rifles, SMGs, and a variety of melee weapons. We even find a minigun on a shelf, a first aid kit, more ammo boxes on the ground to the southwest, and on a table, pistols, more SMGs, and even a huge flamer. I wonder if the developers are trying to tell us something about an upcoming fight. To the northwest, we find a table laid out with all sorts of aid, stim packs, dirty water, Radaway, a stack of missiles, and then a bunch of food in the corner. And then we see an interesting experiment laid out, Punga experiment. We can activate a switch, but it's hard to see what happens. It looks like the switch is connected to a lamp and a piece of this new punga fruit that we find here in Point Lookout. I had to turn off my light to see the effect, but sure enough, flipping the switch turns the light on and off. So it looks like the punga fruit acts as a little bit of a battery. Heading up the large staircases to the top level, we see blood on the ceiling, likely seeping from the floor above. God knows what the tribals are doing up there. Here we find Desmond next to another store of weapons and ammunition. We find a sniper rifle here, a mine box, and more ammunition containers. Going around the perimeter of this upper level, we see a lot of doors, but they're all locked or blocked up by rubble and furniture. I'm not even kidding about the sheer magnitude of Confederate and Union hats we find here. I had to repair both the Confederate and the Union hats just to declutter my inventory. But why are there so many here in the mansion? Once we're satisfied that we've fully explored these rooms, we can go through the door as Desmond requested. This leads to a hallway. The western end is blocked up by furniture, and the eastern end leads to a door that's locked and requires a key. Our only option, then, is to head north into what appears to be the formal dining room. However, as we explore,
Found!
a tribal falls from the ceiling and cracks open the dining room table. Then the double doors to the west open up, and we get charged by even more tribals. It was at this point that I was done experimenting with a shotgun, and I pulled out my trusty-dusty Master Blaster. When done, we can loot the room. We find a skeleton in the northwestern corner. Here we can loot some shotgun shells and a double-barrel shotgun, as well as a first aid kit. Heading into the hallway where the tribals came from, we see that the southern way is blocked with a bookshelf, and we find a staircase to the north. Passing the skeletons at the base of the staircase, we can climb it and then turn south down a hallway. We see a hole in the floor before us and furniture on the other side. There's a door to the left. Rounding the corner to peer inside, tribals burst through the door barricades. I thought I would play with the lever-action rifle that came with point lookout, but again I quickly switched back to my Master Blaster. Another tribal began sniping at me from the doorway across the gap. Had to pull out my Gauss rifle to kill him. If we creep by the hole in the floor, we can go through a western door to a bedroom. Here we find a couple of ammo boxes and a first aid kit on a bed next to an old skeleton. I wonder why Desmond, who is part of the Calvert family, who presumably lived out of this mansion, didn't clean up some of the corpses here, who I guess are his family members? These bodies look like they have been here for quite some time. When done, we can go into the eastern room that the tribals burst into. Here we find an open safe with pre-war money inside. And then we can go through a big hole in the wall where we find a nursery. There's a teddy bear on the ground that we can collect for Marie, a wardrobe with more clothing and, yes, more Civil War era hats. There's a skeleton inside the playpen, but it looks like an adult skeleton, not the skeleton of a child. In the playpen, we find a couple of balls and blocks. Just outside is a big steamer trunk filled with 2 ammunition boxes and an assortment of stim packs. After looting up, we can leave the nursery through the doorway to the west. Heading on down the hallway, we can turn west into a music room. We see music stands laid out and a few skeletons on the ground until we hear a voice to the left.
Over there!
These tribals appear from nowhere. Heading out of the music room, we find the southern way blocked with furniture, so we can turn east down the hallway and then follow it to the south. Here we find a large room where more tribals rush us. This looks like a master bedroom, and as soon as we enter, Desmond speaks to us through the intercom.
Okay, now hurry up and seal that hole. It looks like an explosion should do the trick. Maybe there's something explosive near the hole you can shoot.
Peering through the door, which we can't open, we see a small chemistry lab and a hole in the ceiling. That must be the hole that Desmond wants us to fill. But before we close it up, let's loot this room in case we can't loot it later. In the southern corner, we find 2 ammo boxes and a first aid kit, and then 2 more wardrobes with more clothing and hats. When we're ready, we can go to the southwest to try and block up that hole in the ceiling. There is a big tub by the chemistry set. Perhaps that is the explosive thing that Desmond was talking about. Sure enough, That closes the hole. But our job is only half done. We've sealed off the west wing, but now we need to seal off the east wing. Desmond gives us no further instruction from the intercom, so we need to find our own way. Turning around and heading through the double doors.
Hey, over here.
Oh, there he is.
Good job blocking off that hole. Hurry and get in here. Looks like they're about to breach from the east wing.
Heading through the door, we find ourselves in the upper floor of that big entry room that we explored at the very beginning. We walked through one of those doors that was blocked, and then tribals burst through the other blocked door.
You won't bother anyone ever again. Hurry, get in there before more of them come out. Find where they're coming from and stop them. Just like before, I'll be keeping an eye out.
Desmond's gonna hang back while we do all the dirty work. Once we finish looting all the corpses, we can head through the door to the east. We find ourselves in a hallway. There's a path to the north, which is blocked off, and then a path to the south. So to continue forward, we need to open the broken door to the west. The floor crumbles beneath us. We find ourselves in some sort of dimly lit basement. Eerily, we see two mannequins standing up. There are two shelving units to the west, where we find two ammo boxes and a first aid kit, and there's a skeleton lying right next to where we landed. Another body that Desmond, for some reason, never cleaned up. Continuing forward, we go to the south, where we find ourselves in a wine cellar. More eerie mannequins are standing about. We can go behind the big wine racks, where we find a small stash of chems, Radex, and Stimpaks. And we see that someone is banging on the door. Oh, great. I wonder who that could be. As we get closer...
Look.
Surprise! More tribals. After looting the corpses, we can go up the stairs to the north, and we're back in the eastern wing. There's a doorway to the north that we can't open. The path to the west is blocked with furniture, forcing us to go south, where more tribals burst through the door. The room they burst from appears to be some sort of study. It has long been abandoned. Books and refuse lie everywhere. Someone has blocked up a doorway with desks. We find a first aid kit on the desk in the middle of the room, and to leave, we go through a northern double door into the kitchen, where, of course...
What the hell?
These tribals are surprisingly stubborn enemies, even while lacking any sort of suitable armor. Heading through the kitchen, we can go through a door to the north. This must have been the larder. Inside, we find a selection of boxed foods, including sugar bombs. And then to the northwest, two ammo boxes at the very bottom of a shelf, and another first aid kit on the wall. Turning around, we can leave the kitchen by going through an eastern door. This leads us to a hallway that rounds a corner and again goes upstairs. We see enemies on our compass, so crouching down and creeping upstairs, we find them swarming around in the nearby billiard room. Heading into the room, we see the mounted heads of animals on the walls. A skeleton lies on the billiard table, which otherwise looks none the worse for wear. We find an ammo box next to a big green leather chair. And is that a mole rat skin on the wall? And a double-headed Brahmin? How could these have been here from before the war? Mole rats and Brahmin didn't exist before the war. The only explanation is that Desmond must have killed these creatures and stuffed them himself. But we don't get too long to ponder about such things. Heading through the western door where that tribal attacked, we can turn north, where we find an ammo box and a first aid kit. And then peering through a crack in the nearby wall, we see the other canister that we need to explode. With that, we seal off the western wing, and hopefully this will improve Desmond's attitude.
That's one less way for them to get in. Follow me. I think we're about to get hit hard.
What, you mean we haven't been hit hard already?
Yeah, here they come. Grab all the ammo and stim packs you need. This is gonna be a rough one. If you have any minds, now's the time to use them. They could come in through any of the boarded-up doors at any second.
Good idea, Desmond. Well, since we know that they are on their way, we can take out some mines and lay them on the stairs. Yeah, it looks like a good spot. Run to the corner, put in front of the door over there. Yeah, maybe in the hallway. All right, I think I'm ready.
Here they come. Second floor on the right.
They start by bursting through the door to the northeast.
Hey. All's well. More of them. On the right. First floor.
Then from the northeast, on the ground floor.
The door on the left. First floor.
The northwest this time on the ground floor.
You deserve that. They're at the front door. Get ready.
And then the front door opens up.
Over there. Looks like the last of them. Doing a pretty good shot.
Whoo-wee. Look at the blood. What an absolute bloodbath. Oh my gosh. I can only imagine how this place is going to reek after a few days. With that, Desmond walks back downstairs and behind his little furniture barricade.
So, my hero. Think you came in and rescued me right in the nick of time? Not hardly. Had it all well in hand, and I didn't even need to use the failsafe. But that would have done a real number on some of the paintings, so just as well you were here. Anyway, name's Desmond.
I'm pretty sure I just saved your life, you know.
No, but you helped me out, and that's something. Can't let you think I'm not a gracious host, can I? So, tell you what I'll do. I'll share a few tips for the next time you're making a dramatic final stand.
What kind of failsafe are you talking about?
The type that kills everyone outside of my safe room and leaves a hell of a mess to clean up. Standard type. Not worth wasting on ignorant savages like them, honestly. Just as well you came along when you did. So, tell you what I'll do. I'll share a few tips for the next time you're making a dramatic final stand.
With that, we get the Superior Defender perk. You now do more damage and have better defense while standing still. Pretty cool, I'll take it. Hey Desmond, any chance of getting more training?
There's always a chance, certainly. But what you earn depends on how well you can follow directions. You're not the most incompetent waster I've ever met. I think we could put you to work and figure out what's going on here. Your reward would be considerable, since I know that's what you wasters value. Decide.
Do you know why the tribals were attacking?
Not a fucking clue. It'd be easy to chalk it up to their crazy religion, but if I'm right, and I always am, there's something else going on. That's the third attack in a month, so somebody's got a grudge with me. Whether it's a man or a god, I intend to set them straight.
Why would they want to attack the mansion?
Damned if I know. It was abandoned when I got here. There's plenty hidden away here. None of it would be useful to a bunch of crazed inbreds.
Have you seen a woman with bright red dyed hair named Nadine?
I've been around for a long goddamn time. The last time I knew a bird named Nadine, I still had skin. There was some girl who came nosing around here a few weeks back, but she ran off before I could introduce myself.
Okay, calm down, you creepy old ghoul. No one wants you to introduce yourself. Hey, can you tell me more about Point Lookout?
I'm here on my own business. You wouldn't understand it even if I tried to explain it to you. I don't know why anyone would bother with this shithole. It's filled with a bunch of disgusting inbreds and half-crazed loons. I'm gonna do what I came to do, and then get the fuck out of here.
What do you know about the tribals?
They're brainless morons who worship some crazy spirit. Wants to know.
All right, well, I gotta go now.
Now hold on there. Not so fucking fast. You can be useful to me. I need someone willing to get their hands dirty. So here's the deal. I help you get in with those tribals, you help me get what I want, and I'll make you fucking rich. Just try not to sprain a lobe while you're thinking about it. My time is short.
With that, we complete the quest, The Local Flavor, and begin the quest, Walking with Spirits. Hey Desmond, can you tell me again what you want me to do about those tribals?
You need to learn to pay attention when I speak. Those mud lovers want me dead and haven't extended the common fucking courtesy of telling me why. So, I need you to find a way into their commune and figure out what's going through their addled little heads. Be a good pup, and old Desmond will give you a treat. And of course, who knows what riches they have for you to steal.
Become a tribal? No way!
What? Like you've never done something unpleasant for the promise of your own personal gain? Give it a rest, Saint. Just head up to the cathedral and ask real nice. When you're in, you'll find the bastard in charge and find out what they're up to. I just need information. No need for violence. Yet.
You really think they'll just let me in like that?
These are people who think cutting a hole in their skull can expand their mind. They're not exactly scholars over there. Just head up to the cathedral and ask real nice. When you're in, you'll find the bastard in charge and find out what they're up to.
So what, they perform amateur brain surgery on each other? Oh, great. Not more lobotomites. Well, what sort of reward are you offering?
The only reliable currency in the world. Information. You provide me with valuable info about the tribals. I pay in kind. I've got a few more tricks I can share with you, if that's not enough to get you barking.
Well, Desmond, what's your story?
My story? Tell you what, kid. My story's a lot like a deathclaw's tongue. It's long, messy, and you don't want to get too personal with it. Understand? Suffice it to say, I have business in Point Lookout. If you help, you will be repaid for your efforts. That's all you want to fucking know.
You know, I'm having a hard time placing his accent. Is that transatlantic? Sounds kind of British? Maybe a mix of the two? Well, he has been here for 200 years, so I'm sure his accent has changed. Well, Desmond, why should I work with you anyway?
What's the difference between you and me, kid? What makes a gifted killer like yourself into a rock-hard bastard like me? The answer is training, you ignorant fuck! I've got 100 years of experience on you, and don't you forget it. Stick by me and you'll get a master's class in doing what has to be done.
All right, I gotta go.
Back to business.
So, we need to find the tribal compound and infiltrate their ranks. Desmond told us that they like to hang out at a nearby cathedral. To find the cathedral, we need to travel almost due north of Calvert Mansion. But along the way, we will pass through the swamp, guarded by more of these crazed mutants. We will pick up the story right here where we left off in tomorrow's video. I publish a new video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. If you want to make sure you don't miss tomorrow's episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I hope you're enjoying Point Lookout so far. I know that in the past I said my next DLC would be Broken Steel, but at the time I didn't realize that I couldn't do Broken Steel until I had beat the primary plot of the game, which I have not yet done. So we are going to save Broken Steel for last and instead move on to Point Lookout and then Lonesome Road. I hope you'll stay with me through the whole thing. If you have any thoughts, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with episode 2.